Hey guys, I'm Sarah. Every week I comb through hundreds of DIY videos preparing projects for our weekly maker show, Make or Break. Along the way, I find some good ones and some great ones, and right now, I'm gonna share them with you. This is Sarah's top 5 DIY lumber racks. Alright, let's get started with number 5. Homestead Anomics was sick of his lumber sitting on the floor and being unorganized, so he decided to make some wall-mounted lumber racks. Joe started by installing a ledger board and vertical supports, then he cut down the half-inch plywood he was using into squares and then cut those in half diagonally. He cut some 2x3 boards for the middle of the brackets and then he assembled them. He then does a little dry fit test to make sure they all come together smoothly and that they're level. Then he attaches the brackets to the vertical mounts and finally adds the lumber. Number 4 is Woodshop Junkie. So this entire build can be done using just one sheet of plywood and is a pretty easy project. Mr. Woodshop Junkie got started cutting down his plywood into a more manageable size, then he works his way through the cut list, getting all of his pieces ready for assembly. Side note, pay attention to his killer workshop table in this video. That thing is awesome, but I'm getting off track. Once he had all of his pieces cut down to size, he glued the vertical supports together and then drilled holes all along them. He then moves on to building the cantilevers. Yeah, he made cantilevers for this lumber storage. How cool is this? And the supports at the top of the rack double as more storage for larger boards. Mr. Junkie, this is awesome. John Peters is number 3. John begins his lumber rack project by ripping down his repurposed plywood into 2 1/4 inch strips, then sends them all through a sander, removing most of that old surface. Then he takes them all to the miter saw to cut them down to final length. He takes 2 pieces of plywood strips and spacers and lays everything out for assembly on the table, being sure to pre-drill all of the holes to make sure not to destroy the wood when he's driving the screws into them. He also gives some really great advice along the way to guarantee the best possible outcome for your build. Once he had all of the supports done, it was time to build the arms that would hold the lumber. He attached the arms to the vertical supports, then mounted them all to the wall. These turned out beautifully, John. Number 2 is Fisher's Shop. Okay, so if you followed our channel even for a little while, you may have noticed that Rob and I are huge fans of the French cleat. It's a problem that we have no intentions of fixing. Well, ever, actually. So when I stumbled upon this video where Drew made his lumber rack using French cleats so that it can be customizable and changeable, I was hooked. He ripped down 2x4s at a 45-degree angle to make his cleats and mounted them to the wall. Next, it was time to make the brackets. Once the brackets were done, it was time for what we all have been waiting for, watching him install the brackets to the French cleat wall. This is a super simple build and the outcome is, well, amazing. Even if you are not looking to build a lumber rack, I highly recommend go watching this video. It is wildly entertaining. Number 1 is the Wood Whisperer. Okay, so this is actually the video that Rob and I used for inspiration for our own lumber rack in the shop. Mark built his lumber rack using 2x4s and plywood. He recommended to get your plywood from a hardwood dealer and get shop grade plywood. It's just nicer plywood that isn't gonna warp and break down as fast as normal plywood that you would get from a home improvement store. He pre-drilled the holes for the horizontal supports, then gets them mounted to the wall. Then he preps and attaches the vertical supports. Once those are up, he starts ripping down the plywood for the brackets. When he had all the plywood pieces ready, he added the 2x4 piece to all of the brackets and then glued and screwed them together. All that was left was to mount the brackets to the supports on the wall and add the lumber. Alright guys, do me a favor and like this video, and if you have not already subscribed, please go do that now and be sure to hit the bell so you don't miss any of our shows that come out during the week. We'll see you then.